Welcome to the Whiskey Congress. Honest, open talk dedicated to speaking the truth to those who are open to hearing it. Black, white, right, left. Most importantly, honest, bold, and fueled by good whiskey. In Whiskey Veritas, we are Whiskey Congress. Join the evolution.
Welcome back to Whiskey Congress. We do have a whiskey to talk about before we get into politics, sports, and all other fun things. We have Elijah Craig Small Batch. It's a 94 proof. It's a straight Kentucky bourbon. Elijah Craig is pretty good. I generally like their stuff. I scored it, but I wrote mine down. So what do you think of it?
All right. So I'm a fan of Elijah Craig, but I'm not a huge fan of theirs.
Okay.
Right? Like, I'll drink it if it's available, but usually if they have Elijah Craig, usually there's something better that I'll gravitate towards. And I don't have anything against them, but they're not at the top of my list and they're not at the bottom. It's more one of those sort of middle ground bourbons for me. So off the top, one of the first things that kind of comes through for me is sort of like a honey taste, along with maybe like some like a real subtle hint of like maybe a fruit, like an apple or something like that, depending on what type of wood they use maybe in there. You get some hints of vanilla, maybe a little buttery taste as well. And all in all, it's good, but none of those flavors jump out at you. You can taste them and they're there, but they're relatively subtle. They kind of come in a little bit of a wave, and then the heat from the alcohol comes in, and then you kind of lose all the flavor. So you have to kind of go back multiple times to get the taste and to get the flavor, which I don't mind going back to the well on whiskey, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. But when you're talking about flavor and you're talking about bringing that taste out, it just doesn't really stand out to me. I gave it, even though this is a small batch, which should theoretically have a little bit of a stronger score, I gave it a 90. I think that's kind of par. That's par for our standards.
I only gave it an 88.
That's fair. I mean, I always give it a boost. I mean, because
it's got the high alcohol and
right.
it smooths it out, so it does have that. Yeah, it's very solid. I'm not gonna shy away from pouring myself another hit of it, but I'm also not thinking, wow, this is something that this didn't earn a permanent spot in my liquor cabinet. So
right.
All right.
I mean, it's one of those. Like I said, when I come to Elijah Craig, chances are if it's there, there's something else better in the same price range, and I'll usually go for that. On the rare instances that this is the kind of the marquee on the rail, then you run with it. And
right.
It's not a huge deal to look back on it, but not my favorite, but not bad by any stretch of the imagination. Bottle of that runs you about $40.
Yeah, I think I paid somewhere under 35, 40, somewhere in that range.
Between $35 and $40 at your store, at least here in Northeast Ohio. So it's not honestly, for that $35 to $40 price range, I'd probably rather just go with the bottled bullet, to tell you the truth. Because you'll get a little bit more bang for your buck, and
truthfully,
all the way around in terms of flavor, ABV, and amount.
I bought this in large part because I wanted something I hadn't had before to review. Now that I've had it, if I was going back to the liquor store, I would definitely get Bullet over this.
Yep. So,
all right. So, this damn cough will not go away. Maybe whiskey will help. So during the week, I was working out in North Carolina, and you sent me a video by a Colion Noir, the NRA spokesperson. He's the guy who interviewed Killer Mike, and that caused all kinds of
cause a stir.
Cause a stir. Thank you. Yep.
There was a lot of backlash against it. Killer Mike is a rapper. Right now, he's in a group or a duo called Run the Jewels. Killer Mike was probably made famous. He did He did some stuff with Goody Mob back in the day, who they're an offshoot from Outkast, out of that same Atlanta area, CeeLo, But Killer Mike is a Second Amendment guns right advocate, and Colion Noir is the same. And the big backlash is these guys are talking about the Second Amendment, they're talking about gun rights, they're supporting the NRA, and they're black. How could they? The NRA is this big racist organization. How could any black person support them? And that's the argument against Colion Noir, because he himself is black. He's been making videos for a while now, like over 5 to 6 years.
I think he said he was doing it for 5 years before he even was reached out to by the NRA to become an official spokesperson. So
right, and then over the last couple years, so maybe it's been 7 or 8 years that he's been doing videos. But either way, he's their spokesperson. He does these videos that are, they're obviously heavy, heavy guns. He calls himself an ammosexual. He talks about different guns and different weapons. He, talks about the Second Amendment. He's a lawyer by trade. And so he takes a lot of heat from progressives, from people on the left, from black people, because again, he's, he works directly with the NRA. And it's like, how could you're betraying yourself and everybody by doing this.
Okay. So why did you send me that video?
Because I know your feelings about the NRA. You're very, you were an NRA member. You've revoked your membership. You talked about Wayne LaPierre as,
I've used some bad words that
right,
yes,
as a character that you are not a fan of.
That is all correct.
And so this video that we're going to discuss, which we'll post on the link to this podcast. We'll put it on Twitter for people to watch and kind of judge for themselves. But this just talks about, the NRA. It's, the accusation that the NRA is racist. He, has a counter argument.
He makes his case. Yeah.
He makes a case that it's not. And, you've, kind of intimated at race being an issue with the NRA as well. And so I'm not that you said it was racist, but I mean, on one of your rants, you kind of went off the rails a little bit, and that might have been more whiskey talking than anything. But I just figured it was something that you would, take interested in and
I
immediately take the bait. So let's see what happens.
Okay. So I did. Colion Noir multiple times says basically look at all these great things the NRA has done for black people in the realm of Second Amendment rights. Maybe every statement he made is 100% true. And one thing I will give Mr. Noir credit for is unlike...
Slow down. You're getting excited.
I'm not getting... I'm very calm.
You're getting excited. You're going fast.
I'm the picture... All right. One of the things I'll give him credit for is he didn't go on the anti-government, they're coming to get you, the liberals are whatever. I mean, he did some of that. But it was not in the typical Dana Loesch, Wayne LaPierre scare tactic NRA speech. So I give him credit for that.
It's almost like he was able to think for himself. Weird.
No, weird, yeah. Well, the one thing I will say is a lot of the statements he made are what I will call truthful, but lacking full context. So I agree. The NRA does not have an official stance that is racist. They are not the... alt-right. Now, there's probably a fair bit of overlap between NRA member. That Venn diagram that definitely touches alt-right and NRA member. But the one thing I would counter with is he talks about all these situations where he says, the NRA is misrepresented, the NRA is not racist. Okay, the NRA may not be racist, but the NRA supports a lot of organizations that are openly racist, and in my experience at gun shows, at gun clubs, has done nothing to discourage it. And I would that would be something that if I was able to talk to Colion Noir, I would say, okay, you're right. There is no official policy by the NRA that I would say that's a racist policy. I will say that if you go to events that they are prominent at where there is blatant racist stuff going on, I've never heard them say, whoa, we're not coming to that because you're flying a Confederate flag. Well, you've got Obama with a Hitler mustache up there. We'd like you to take that down. So, okay, they're not overtly racist, but they're certainly racist tolerant.
And I guess his argument would be that when you're an organization as large as the NRA, you're not going to be able to control every faction of your group and or organization. You're not going to be able to control how your members think, and you're not going to be able to control what goes on.
I think they can control how their members think, but okay.
You're not going to be able to control, every event or non-NRA sanctioned event that happens. And so, yeah, you're gonna have aspects of that, but I mean,
the same people say that about Black Lives Matter, right? Oh, they were chanting this is a Black Lives Matter thing, and I'll be the first to say Black Lives Matter would not have endorsed the pigs in a blanket fry 'em like bacon thing. That was a dumb thing for the people there to do in terms of trying to help the cause. So this is, tit for tat, right? This is the same thing.
It's the same thing. So, but I also think that you can have two things true at the same time.
Absolutely.
And I think that everything he did say was true.
I agree.
You go through, you fact check, this is accurate, this is true. And I think where it comes out is that there's a part of the NRA that is built around gun safety, gun ownership, Second Amendment rights, people being able to protect themselves, obviously hunting, every aspect of it. Everything that he talks about, yes, very true. They have the gun safety for women to protect themselves against rape and domestic violence. They have gun safety for, anyone that wants to come to a gun safety class. They will gladly take your money. And a lot of the stuff is actually free, but there is the stuff that's not, that, they'll take anybody's money they're not going to discriminate against, and they're going to teach you gun safety, especially if you're there with a gun, right? So all those things are true. But I think on the flip side, you can also have, like we said, factions of the organization that are racist. You have the fact that they didn't come out in support of Philando Castile, which would only make sense for them to do. He had a legitimate CCW. He was shot for no reason other than that we can ascertain than the fact that the cop got jumpy because he was a black guy who legally had a gun. Right. And so that's where the NRA should say, they should have came out. They should have taken a stance. Colion Noir himself should have came out and take a stance. He's refused to actually come out and say anything about it. He did say something somewhat kind of sort of after the fact. It was months and months after it had all happened, and only because he took a lot of heat from a lot of people, that had traditionally supported him, and kind of called him on his bullshit in that regard. And so where he, for every instance you can point to where he says they're not a racist organization, I think a person like you can bring up your anecdotal experience. I think that there are people just looking at the broad strokes of different things that have happened where you could say, yeah, if you weren't though, you would have supported X or you wouldn't have supported Y.
Or to me, the big thing is you don't call out, hey, there's nothing
just
that
the way
I've
their messaging and their,
right. And I've never heard them say, hey, we're not about, this Confederate flag stuff. We want to be, fair to all of our members, and there's people who find that patently offensive, so tone that down. Never heard anything like that.
Right.
If you read NRA literature, it is filled with just plain bullshit and scare tactics. I mean, occasionally they'll say something true, like, but they'll frame it in a way that makes it sound way scarier than it is. The NRA will love to say things like the Democrats are going to try to make all bullets that aren't made out of pure gold illegal, and they'll point to some ridiculous thing that gets brought up in the State House of California and say, look, here it's coming, you better throw your money at us and we got to keep you safe. I think the NRA could and used to serve a valuable purpose. I think they've just become a bought and paid for political hack organization. I'm not necessarily putting Colion Noir in that part of it,
right?
But they're there.
So, I think the reality is, I think that I think that the NRA went out and said, let's get young, attractive people to legitimately talk about guns and talk about the Second Amendment, and we won't control their content, right? That's what they've done with him. They've allowed him to express himself however he wants, say what he wants, make the arguments that he wants, because he's a Second Amendment gun guy, but I think if you took that aspect of who and what he is away, that he would probably fit in the camp of your standard, black, well-spoken, progressive advocate.
I don't know anything about his. I don't know anything
Right.
about his other politics.
So I mean, so you take a guy like that, you allow him to be on NRA TV. And it's weird you say you allow him to be, but you allow him to be there. You allow him to exist in that plane without disturbing him. On the one hand, you could say you're just a puppet for them, although they're not controlling what he's saying. He's just saying what he's always said.
How do we know that they don't have editorial control of what he says? Does he come out and say that? I've never
He's said it multiple times.
Okay.
He said it multiple times. The NRA has come out and said it. And based on how his show runs, like I've watched a number of his episodes, it's got a very hip hop feel to it. I mean, he talks. I mean, he's a guy who, he drives a Mercedes G-Wagon. He rocks a Rolex. He loves his fitted hats. He's a hip hop guy. He loves Drake. I just have a feeling like if the NRA were controlling his message, they would probably ask him to tone the niggeration down a little bit, and he hasn't. They haven't. So to that, you'll give him credit. But I still think that as a guy in his position, with the voice that he has, the following that he has, I think he's got to be careful. Because like for the reasons that you mentioned, aside from the racist or the racist situations they allow themselves to be in or that they associate with, and through their own messaging and advertising and marketing and targeting, which you're just like, all right, well, they may not be coming out and saying that, you need to have a gun to protect yourself from the big scary Negroes that are walking around, but they might as well. I think, in my personal opinion, that at some point in time in the near future, he may be better off separating from the NRA, but still preaching his message, because I believe that the message that his specific message, right, his and Kevin Dixie and Killer Mike and there's a number of Black Second Amendment rights advocates out there. Their message is valid, right? And the message is, listen, this whole thing with blacks and civil rights, whether it was Martin Luther King or Malcolm X or the Black Panthers or you go down the list, every single one of them has been a Second Amendment right advocate, has owned a shotgun, a handgun, some form of a gun to protect themselves, to protect their families, and I suggest you do the same too, right? I mean, and that's been the case in the history of people who look like me in this country for the longest time. Now, you could say, oh, well, if the government goes tyrannical and they've got tanks and drones and everything else, then they can just blow you right out of your house. Well, maybe.
I mean,
okay, sure.
That argument always bothers me, though,
right? I mean, yes, they can, absolutely, but let's just
if the federal government is targeting striking. Yes.
Hold on, but if for some reason Trump goes crazy and starts calling drone hits on everybody's houses or only the black people's houses, then okay, yes, we have a serious problem. But self-defense and home defense, there's layers to it, right? Like, yes, it's to protect yourself from a tyrannical government, but tyrannical government doesn't necessarily mean the federal government.
It could mean the local sheriff.
It could be the local sheriff, right? I mean, we've all seen Rambo, right? I mean, it could be, we've seen Rambo, we've seen Walking Tall, we've seen these movies where you have these crazy sheriffs that go nuts.
Right.
And not that that's necessarily the reality, but the actual reality is you could have some small local group that thinks that you're vulnerable because you're the only black family in a white suburb, and they want to come and they want to come to your home and threaten your wife and threaten your children, and the only thing between you and that group is whatever weapon that you have in the house, right? And that rings true with me for a number of different reasons that I don't think I have to explain to you, right?
Yeah, I get you.
So I'm this whole thing where people are just get rid of guns, or because you have
those people exist.
You have plenty of those people that exist, or the people who when they ask me specifically about my thoughts on gun control, I'm just like, I mean, should I have access to an AK-47 in good conscience? for you guys' sake, probably not. But I mean,
Wait, what do you mean, you guys? You kind of looked at me. When you mean me specifically? Okay.
Yes.
You're a jerk.
You're
a jerk. You. All right. Yes.
Let that hang
When
there.
I say you guys, I mean you, the person I'm talking to.
No, but
Asshole.
I wouldn't kill you. I wouldn't kill you.
Well, thank you. That's awful generous.
Maim.
I don't know that I trust your aim well enough to.
It's an AK-47. Who the fuck cares about aim?
When you absolutely positively want to kill every last motherfucker in the room. Little Jackie Brown reference there. All right. Well, anyway, the video's worth watching.
I think that the video is worth watching because it gives some historical references that are accurate that a lot of people don't know, which I think is fair. But I just say watch that, think about it. I think he's walking a dangerous line. And then if you ask me where I come in on gun control, listen, if you want to make it so I can't have a rocket launcher, I'll buy that. You're not going
to maim me with a rocket launcher, so.
No, I ain't going to maim you with a
rocket launcher. I said
you're
not going to maim me with a rocket launcher.
Right. But, I mean, should I have access to an M4? No, probably not.
That's where I'm like, all right. I'm not even saying people shouldn't have access to that. I'm saying admit that it's what it is. When the NRA makes sporting arguments for this shit, I'm like, stop. Be honest.
I mean, I will, but my argument, and I guess my counter argument to your, an M4 is a weapon of war. An AR-15 is a weapon of war. It's a semi-automatic weapon, but it's still a weapon of war, right? I mean, based on...
It's a scaled down one, yes.
I mean, but my argument is that a Glock 19 is a weapon of war. I mean, a Beretta 9mm is a weapon of war, right? I mean, for
legitimately
that's what they carry on their sidearm. Yep. Right. I mean, but handguns are fine. It's still a weapon of war. Right. So, but the argument is AR-15 shouldn't be allowed because they're weapons of war and because of all the damage that they do. And my thing is this, and you say, well, an AR-15 is a bad weapon for home defense, but who are you? Okay, fine, but who are you to tell me what's a good weapon of choice for my defense of me and mine? I mean, it's
my opinion based on logic.
That's okay. That's fine, but that's fine. That's based on your logic, right? But for my purposes, maybe that's where I feel safe. Maybe I'm really good with an AR-15. Maybe I'm really good and I'm really accurate. Your whole argument, go through and it pierces walls and everything else.
Yeah, well,
but if I take it and I put it right through your skull, then I'm no longer worried about it going through a wall.
It might go through my skull and then a wall.
It's not going to go through a skull and then a wall.
All right, we can get this on Mythbusters. Watch the video. We're going to go back and forth on this for hours if we allow it.
It's our fucking show.
It is our show. We do what the fuck we want. That's true. I got nothing to add.
That's fair. But I mean, I think your argument that an AR-15 is a bad weapon for home defense is kind of a crap argument.
Okay, you're wrong.
Okay, I mean, but I think there are people out there. Listen, is it the right weapon for everyone? No. And is there only a small percentage of the population who could actually use an AR-15 effectively for home defense? Right? Only a small percentage of the population. But if that's their choice, that's their choice.
Legally, they have the right to do it.
Now, and my other thing is this. Here's my other thing. We're not anywhere near banning AR-15s. We're not anywhere near any sort of gun control that would make liberals, progressives, anyone happy, right? So my thing is, well, I mean, since we're not there, then let's deal with what we have. Now, we can get there, but I'm not necessarily.
I'm not saying I want to get there.
But I'm not necessarily going to advocate for it because I don't know how comfortable I feel with this idea of limiting people's access. Right? I mean, you can tell me all the statistics about Australia, but I don't know how accurate the statistics are that you're actually telling me. Because you talk to people that actually live in Australia, their story is a lot different than what you hear on the Michael Smirkana show or what you hear out of someone who Bill Maher or someone who really wants gun control.
Well, so Colion Noir is about to go on Joe Rogan's podcast.
That'll be interesting.
I cannot wait.
But I don't know. But why? But I don't know Joe Rogan's stance on guns. I don't listen to his show.
It's very logical. He's very Joe Rogan. Obviously you know that I'm a total fanboy, but Joe Rogan is an intellectually honest guy who is.
What's his stance on guns?
That there's certain limitations are perfectly reasonable, but the government is something that should be kept under control by citizens, and citizen gun ownership matters. And he acknowledges it's a very complicated issue. He was just talking to Joey Diaz the other day, talking about how, everyone in this room, I'm totally comfortable if they have a gun. Does that mean everyone in the society is someone I'm comfortable with? No. And we've seen way too many instances of people who clearly, given the chance to use them for nefarious purposes, have done so.
True.
And the thing I love about Joe Rogan, he's not a confrontational guy typically, unless people push him over the edge. But again, he's intellectually honest. So if you go on there and say, every fifth grader should be carrying an AR-15, Joe Rogan's gonna say, okay, you're fucking crazy. Right. Let me take another hit of my vape pen. He won't do vape pens. He's old school. But okay. So anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing.
I don't feel comfortable with you talking about vape pens and old school
weed
consumption with your lack of experience.
So we should talk about Mike Wood starting a few new podcasts. One of them is called The Morning Blunt, and he sent me a clip from it. He sent us both a clip from it, and I listened to it, and I asked a few questions about it. He said, "Yeah, this is for people smoking their first joint of the morning. You're probably not the right target audience. LOL, aka square white guy." I mean, he didn't call me square white guy in those words, but he essentially did.
He might as well have.
He probably did.
Because you are.
Whatever. I'm so shy about that. Anyway, let's.
All right, I think we've
beaten this to the ground.
Successfully transitioned out. So there's not a good way to transition to our next topic, but the big news of the day that was a buzz, I think, end of yesterday into today, was that former FBI director James Comey has dropped a book. And it's a very interesting...
The excerpts that have come out have been interesting. I mean, it technically doesn't come out till Tuesday, but we've already seen...
Right, we've already, seen excerpts, and it talks, the excerpts that we've seen, it talked about, how Comey, his interactions with Donald Trump, what, some conversations they had, what Trump was obsessed about, the big thing that stands out that everyone is talking about, on the Beltway and on the pundit shows, is Trump's obsession with the Russian dossier and the possibility that there was a video of the Russian prostitutes peeing in the bed that Obama had once slept in.
Peeing on him in the bed.
No, it wasn't peeing on him. It was peeing on the bed.
Okay. I like my version better, but
your version is better, but
I thought that's what maybe that was said. I don't know.
It was said, and when the bombshell came out about the dossier, however many months ago that was, I think it quickly snowballed from
into
prostitutes peeing on the bed to them peeing on him, and so. Trump got obsessed that there was a video. He, in the excerpt that we have seen, says that Trump asked Comey to prove that the video was a lie to make Melania Trump feel better, so that there's a 1% chance that she might believe him, or that she might believe that this actually happened, and he wanted Comey to go out there and disprove that it happened, so it would make her feel better. Comey gets into a little bit of a judgmental phase, like, what kind of wife would believe? Like, listen. If your husband has an affair with a porn star while you are pregnant, I find it hard to believe that you would completely be shocked, or that you would be completely shocked that that same guy paid a couple Russian prostitutes to pee on a bed, right?
So here's the thing I thought was the most funny was Comey said something like, Trump said, "Do I look like the kind of guy who would have to pay prostitutes?" Yes, you absolutely do. You're a 70-year-old pasty, disgusting human being, and without your money, you couldn't fuck a $5 whore with $10.
I don't disagree with that, but the problem is the money is there.
Right. And he can afford the prostitutes, but don't tell me he's going to Russia and who knows?
Listen, a billionaire is a billionaire is a billionaire, and if you want to argue whether he's got a billionaire or not, okay, fine. But if you got the dough to spend, Russia, I don't think Russian prostitutes discriminate.
No, that's the point though. I'm saying, yes, I think if he goes to Russia and he wants to get some action, he's probably going to prostitutes. I don't think porn stars are throwing themselves at him in Russia the way apparently they do here. I mean, that's not even an accurate description because they don't throw themselves. He throws himself at them and they accept. Allegedly.
Either way, I mean, I think the answer to the question that James Comey or that Donald Trump asked of James Comey, do I look like the type of guy? Could you imagine me with prostitutes? The answer is yes.
Very easily.
Yes, yes. Do you have to go with prostitutes? Can you get women to pee on a bed without them being prostitutes? I mean, but look at you, right? Look at you, and look at the money that you have. Everything about this is very believable. Is the point?
You take away the money, and that dude is. All right,
and this is one of those things again where one is it true? I don't know. And I don't think you'll never know. You'll never know because in reality, the only way you would know is one, if the two prostitutes came out of nowhere and said,
let's face it, they're dead.
Right. Well, I was going to get there, but you ruined it because you're good at ruining jokes. But I would think that you would need the two prostitutes to come out and say, "Hi, I'm Svetlana, and I peed on the bed." Right? Like, or you would need some sort of video evidence, which in reality probably doesn't exist, right? Even if it did really happen, who's recording it, right? If it's Trump, two prostitutes, and Paul Manafort, I find it hard to believe that Paul Manafort will record it, right? Like, there's no advantage.
I think it would be recorded by a camera, a hidden camera in the hotel room in Russia, which I find completely plausible.
That's realistic, yeah. Definitely, but I think if the video existed, I have a feeling that it would be out by now. But Putin could be holding on to it for a truly rainy day.
All right, so
but what would that be? I mean, a U.S. missile strike on Russia? I mean, I don't know. What would the rainy day be? What could Trump do? That's puts
a lot of the stuff in Comey's book is that he couldn't believe how hesitant Trump was to criticize Putin and to criticize Russia. And maybe the reason is because Trump either knows or fears that information is out there. And he knows this guy could at any time.
I guess
we're talking Putin here.
Well, yeah, we're talking Putin, but why would Trump care? I mean, this story that he was banging a porn star while his wife was pregnant, I mean, that's pretty. I don't know.
Like, and he allegedly paid $130,000 allegedly to
somebody did. Michael Cohen paid.
Who's now
in a little
hot water of his own. Right. The whole Michael Cohen's office and house getting raided thing. You and I talked during the week, and you expressed some.
I don't like it. There's not a. The biggest thing is, did Michael Cohen commit, campaign? Did he commit a campaign finance
a crime? Yeah,
by paying off Stormy Daniels, right? I mean,
it depends on where the money came from, right?
Right. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, because he worked, because he is an agent of the president.
Right.
The president is running for office. Michael Cohen is a part of that campaign in some way, shape, or form. So what was the money for? Was the money so that she wouldn't talk because of the timing? Like, listen, you can't tell your story right now because it's going to hurt the president in his campaign. Or was it, this is the standard practice. Trump sleeps with a porn star,
case, yeah.
Or someone. Right. Trump sleeps with someone besides his wife, and he pays them off. We forgot to pay you off, 5 years ago. So here's your money now, and this is the standard practice.
Well, that's not what I went in this case though, because in this case, that story was like on the shelf collecting dust at NBC, and someone from the Washington Post got a tip and was going to go with it. So they tried to stop her from talking about it when rumors or words started getting out that the Washington Post was going to run the story. So they were directly reacting to a leak in the dam.
But the legal argument is going to be, why was the payment made?
But doesn't it matter where the money came from? I'm going Watergate on you here.
Whether it came from Michael Cohen directly,
No.
whether it came from Donald Trump, or whether it came
From campaign donations.
If it came from campaign donations, then that's huge
what I'm
problem.
That's what I'm thinking. They're looking at.
Well, maybe. Yes, you're right. But they're also trying to figure out, like, did Donald Trump pay the money or did Michael Cohen pay the money?
I don't care.
Did the money go from Trump to Cohen? I know you don't care, but again, legally that matters.
Does it?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're building a case, right? If you're building a case, the stronger case is Donald Trump wires $130,000 to Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen then pulls that money out, and then Stormy Daniels ends up with $130,000. It's easier to make a case that this was about the campaign.
Is hush money illegal?
Hush money is not illegal.
Okay,
but an in-kind contribution, right? In that matter, and if you make a campaign contribution and you don't report it, then that is illegal, right? And so they didn't report this 130. Like what they could have done is said, "Hey, we made this $130,000." Payment to this particular person because she was a strong Trump supporter.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know the legalities of how that all works. I just know that. So there's two really important things that are getting totally jumbled, mostly by the right-wing media, and that is that this is part of the Russia investigation. It may have gotten tipped because of the Russia investigation, but it is not being handled by the Mueller team. So this might be an offshoot of that. Did
you see I tweeted that at Ann Coulter, by the way?
No, I did not.
Yeah, Ann Coulter made.
Have we been blocked yet?
Well, no. She had pointed out, Mueller's Mueller's Comey raid or whatever, and I'm like, well,
Cohen
or Cohen, yeah, Mueller's Cohen raid. Blah 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 blah. It's like, well, it wasn't Mueller's raid.
It wasn't. It was the
Mueller came across it, and then he handed it over to the Southern District of New York. New York made the decision to go ahead and run with it. And again, this is all related to campaign finance abuse. It's not about Russia or collusion or anything else.
I mean, the Ann Coulters and my buddy Wilkow and all those clowns are trying to spin this as Mueller gone wild. All he did was say, "Here's what we found. If it's yours now to look at." And what that says to me is a second set of eyes looked into something and said, "Oh, there's a lot of shady shit happening here. We should do something." Now, I don't know the legalities of how the money transferring thing goes, and I've said many times I don't give a shit who the president was fucking. But
here's the thing: just to clear something up, hush money is not illegal.
Right. I didn't think so.
Right. Well, I am not for you, for our listeners. Hush money for an elected official, a CEO, person in the public spotlight, for them to pay someone off to not talk about a relationship or an experience they've had with
Bill Cosby or with Bill O'Reilly.
Well, with whoever, that's not illegal. All right, unless that experience in and of itself was illegal, right? Like, hey, we robbed this bank together. Here's $100,000. Let's talk about it.
Right.
Okay, that is a problem. But just, you have sex with, some random woman and you say, I'm going to pay you this money so you don't blow up my marriage or you don't blow up whatever, my chance at becoming the next CEO of BP Oil, then that's not illegal. It's not a crime. The only reason that this falls into criminal realm is because you had a presidential election going on. They gave this woman money, and the perception is they gave her money so she wouldn't talk because they didn't want it to impact the election. And that money, that's part of a campaign. And
there are rules around how that money gets
when you're spending money. When a candidate spends money during a presidential election or during a federal election, or even a state election, but the rules are a little bit different in depending on the state that you're in. When you have a candidate that's running for office and they're doing something, they're spending money to impact their ability to get elected, they have to report that spending, period.
Yes.
And this is, you could look at it, if they said, all right, we have to shut her up because if she comes out shortly before the election the election, she could sway the evangelicals, and we can't let that happen. So go pay her $130,000 to get her to shut the hell up, and then we'll be done with it, right? And that right there, if that's what happened, which is probably what happened, but proving that could be difficult, especially if you have a pattern of behavior, which it looks like you actually have. Right, like it looks.
It sounds like he had a standard non-disclosure agreement.
Right, like there was a standard letter. There was a standard. Right, like is she pregnant? Check yes or no. Yeah. If yes, go here. If no, go here. So I mean, and that actually is legit. That actually legitimately helps Trump and Cohen both in saying, listen, this is just what
it's
we
contract.
did. She's one that slipped through the cracks, but I mean the rest. I mean this is how we operated on a regular basis, and it's fucked up as it is from a legal standpoint, right? You kind of have to look at that and say, well, I mean, okay.
Remember that Chappelle Show bit where he's like, the sex contract where he's with the girl.
Yes.
He's like, and at the end of it, he last 2 minutes, he's like, if you tell anyone, I'll sue your ass.
Right. I'm a firm believer in the sex contract. Nobody needs to know who anybody is.
Check here to accept oral. I'll do you too.
Check here for anal.
Check here to decline anal or not. Check. Okay.
The look on his face.
That was a great bit. Oh my gosh, that was so funny. And to the end, tell everyone how lousy it was, and I'll sue your ass. Was fucking hilarious. All right. So
Rashida Jones was in that skit. Quincy Jones' daughter.
I did not know that. I'm sure you're shocked I didn't know that, but
I actually am. You don't know who Rashida?
I know
Jones
she is. I didn't know that was her in that video. I don't remember that being her in that video.
Yeah, that's her in that skit.
All right, so sticking with the legal world and the election, Mark Zuckerberg testified in front of Congress this week.
Fuck, it's an awful transition.
It was better than you're saying. I don't have a transition, so let's not worry about it. You're being you're being aggressive today.
I'm not.
You wait till our come at you, bro segment.
Okay. All right.
So Mark Zuckerberg testified in front of Congress today in what I thought
you know what's me being aggressive is throwing you out of your own house. That would be
aggressive. Threatening to shoot me but not kill me, and then threatening to shoot me with a rocket launcher. That's not aggressive. Moving on.
I didn't threaten you. I just said
you just said you were going to do it. All right. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of how I'd like to spend my Tuesday night. Did you see any of Zuckerberg's testimony?
Yes.
What was your overall I have a takeaway from that I want to share, but I want to know what was your just general thoughts on watching that.
That you see why he created Facebook. He is the most socially awkward human being that I've ever seen. And there's a reason why he had to create it is that was the only way he can interact with other human beings.
Okay.
And he's very bad at it. And it came through in his testimony very clearly. It came through in his facial expressions. It came through in his tone of voice. My whole thing on this is I don't actually give a shit. Right, I don't put enough on Facebook in terms of information or data where it fucking matters. Right, Cambridge Analytica has my information. Okay, right. Is someone from Cambridge Analytica gonna come to my house and what are they gonna do? Right, like I know
his daughter really is cute and she runs the show.
Yeah, like okay, well,
you got me there.
Yeah, like you do lift a fair amount of weights. I don't really give a shit. Now people will freak out like, what privacy? They have access to everything.
Well, they have access to what you give them.
Right, they have it. Right, like they have access to what you have already put there. Right, like so clearly it wasn't that big of a deal to you. Right, like you're butthurt about it now, but you gave no shits when you were just typing it in so you could hurry up to see Susie's kids at horse camp or whatever the fuck. So it's not a huge deal to me.
Susie and horse camp every fucking year.
I guess. But my daughter asked me for a pony. And I said, no, you're not getting a pony. I didn't even pretend to I didn't want to entertain it because so far she has called me on everything that I have promised. So I have learned not to make veiled promises to that child. And then I did find this thing in the little area that I live that they actually do a 2-day horse camp with the horses down in over there right off of Grayton. in the metro parks.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
Right there in the metro parks when you go deep down, if you're going between here and where I live.
Yeah, basically, exactly right between us.
Right. If you go, like, if you're going towards
riding lessons.
Yeah,
and
they
stuff
do
like
that,
Sure.
but they do a little camp for kids or whatever. So I still make it up for that. Anyway, sorry.
Cool.
So in some ways, I'm going to be able to deliver on something, but I didn't have to make a promise.
I rented a pony without buying a pony.
Right. So
Which is the way to go.
Right. I went Dad of the Year, fiscally responsible, and making
you don't have a large
happy.
animal in your backyard.
Right. Like I'm actually embracing the fact that I don't have to clean up giant dog shit anymore because Dora is no longer with us. So bringing a horse into that fray
would be a bad decision. Yes, yes.
Right. So anyway, we're way off the rails. Mark Zuckerberg, dog shit and ponies. That's about what his testimony was. I mean,
to me, the hilarious part was it really showed a light on how out of touch with the real world most of the people in Washington are. Their questions were they're calling Zuckerberger. Get his fucking name right. He's Mark fucking Zuckerberg.
It's not that hard.
No, I've publicly admitted this. I've said it to you. I am a huge fan of Mark Zuckerberg. I think he changed the world.
I don't know if I know this.
Oh, okay. Well, then you don't read my articles. I'm a huge fan. Huge fan. Okay. I think he changed the world. You and I have talked about it. You talk about how much you hate Facebook, but you're on it. And lots of people who say they hate it are on it. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love the fact. I went and visited a buddy that I hadn't seen in person in 10 years a couple months ago. And I felt like, okay, I know a fair bit about what's going on in his life. I didn't have to say what are your kids' names and how many kids do you have, because despite the fact that he and I had not, sat in a room or talked on the phone in many years, he and his wife are friends of mine on Facebook. I see the stuff they post. I love what it's done, and I really believe it has changed the world. It's got some bad sides. I've got plenty of people that I'm connected with on Facebook who I don't know why I do it, and I used to be the guy that would get into the political discussion on Facebook where nobody wins. I'm up at 2 a.m. calling people names and getting called names and talking and just no political.
We've had a lot of talks about it. A lot of talks about this.
Yes, we have, and yeah, you can lecture me all you want, but you've done the same fucking thing. And
not nearly as much as you.
I've pretty much stopped. I pretty much stopped. On Facebook?
Yeah.
On Facebook, I've almost completely quit. And on Twitter, I don't even do it very much. When I jump the rails, I tend to jump a little farther than you.
Right. You jump the rail. Like, I just getting back and forth with
people.
You
get heated easily, too.
You go to name calling. You go to...
I do.
You're a twat. Like,
no, that's not the word I usually use. But.
All right. Twat.
Cunt, yeah.
Whatever.
Okay.
I mean, ass lover. Whatever you go to.
I don't jump right to that. I just slip it into the conversation. Like, anyway. Okay. But I love Facebook. I think Mark Zuckerberg I think he changed the world as much as anyone in the last 20 years.
Right. And the argument is...
Maybe not for the better.
Is it good or bad?
Is it good or bad? Well...
Right. Is it good or bad? And listen, I guess I'm not a huge fan of Facebook. Now, part of it is, I guess I say I don't care, but I do care because I don't like the amount of transparency that Facebook wants you to have. Right? Where everybody can see every post that you make, and anyone can try to be friends with you, and they're just can try to be friends. They can see that you're on Facebook, and they can see that you live in Cleveland, and they can. I don't like that just because there are people out there that I don't like.
Right.
And I don't want those. I want those people to have zero access to me. Right.
But you can say no to a friend request.
I understand that, but because of the way Facebook works. Like if they can figure out a way to become a friend of a friend, there's a way that they can still have access and see what you're doing. Now you say, well, I mean, who is it really? Now, are my enemies Vladimir Putin? No, but there are some people out there that if I saw them on the street, I would fight them. I would absolutely fight them. They know who they are. They're not listening to this, or maybe they are, but they're not. Like they're people that I want zero association with. And so the idea that they can make up a fake profile or attach themselves to someone, some acquaintance that I have who I happen to be friends with, when I was around that person, and then that person somehow, like I comment on their thing and they could say, oh, oh, Steve.
Oh, right,
comment
right,
there.
and they can
you know,
comment
I mean,
back.
like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
whole thing. Like I don't that's the aspect of Facebook that I don't like. Whether it's someone that I truly have a beef with, and there's a couple of them out there, or it's an ex or whatever. It's those sort of people I don't want to have access to me, and that's the drawback of Facebook, because that's why I stopped using my last name and did some other things using the privacy settings that are set there within Facebook to try to insulate myself from that. But the reality is that there's still a bit of exposure, and that's the risk that you take. So your options are cut yourself off from a tool that people around the world are using, or just accept the fact that there's that limited exposure.
Funny thing, I connected with someone from college who was a friend, and a guy that she used to date in college who I actually boxed and knocked the fuck out. Friend requested me, and I was like, I hated you in college. You have no idea how good it felt to knock your ass out. Why would I try to reconnect with you now? I couldn't stand you 20 years ago. Well, we're going to reconnect and be buddies? But so I guess I just still think, you want to say it's not for the better? Fine. The ability,
I didn't say that. I'm just saying
to communicate. And
I just said that's why I don't like it.
Okay.
Now, overall,
it shrunk the world.
Yeah, it did shrink the world, which is great. But part of it is, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, which Reddit to a certain degree, what they allow for, but they do allow for the keyboard warrior, the keyboard tough guy,
absolutely,
and the dissemination of false and inaccurate information at a rate faster than anything else. Right? There's no checks, there's no balances.
Undeniably true.
So you could put anything out there that you want, whether it's
people
true
do all
or
the time,
not,
and they often just read the headline.
And it takes no time at all for this bad information to spread like wildfire. It also allows for people to be the internet tough guy, to be the keyboard warrior, so that and don't take this the wrong way, it allows for a guy like you to call a guy like me a cunt if you disagree with it, and for you there's no repercussion, right? And there kind of should be, right? But that isn't just so much. That isn't. I mean, because we live in a world now where you punch someone in the face and they sue, right? But the thing is, you may be calling the cops and you may be suing me, but the next time that you want to run your mouth, you're going to think twice about it, because you now have a whole row of fake teeth. But what's happened with Facebook and Twitter is that now you can call me a cunt. You can call me whatever. You can make fun of my mother. You can talk about my kids. You can threaten me, threaten my kids, threaten whatever. And there's literally no repercussion for you. Right?
Facebook does kick people off, though, right? Facebook is reportable.
I mean, you can report and you can do all that stuff, but you can just literally load up another profile, make up a name, make up an email address, and you can get back to doing what you were doing. You can do it on Facebook. You can do it on Twitter. Right?
I think Twitter is worse for that than Facebook.
Yeah, Twitter is
easy.
worse, and to the point where and Twitter and Facebook both, there's an issue with censorship, because they're both left-leaning organizations, so they tend to censor and quiet and mute the voices of people on the right and conservatives more, and that I'm not comfortable with at all either.
When you say that, though,
what's the evidence? I mean, you go through and you look at the people that they've muted, or the people that they've accounts that they've suspended, especially of celebrities, or non-celebrities, or that kind of realm of I'm an internet celebrity, and there's a lot more conservative voices there than there are liberal voices, and the people on the right aren't saying anything any more offensive or threatening than the people on the left. So my thing is, either you're gonna treat them both the same. If you're gonna say you can't say that, then you need to check the left people that are saying, I wish that Trump was assassinated. Like you're gonna check the people that are saying,
Obama's a Muslim.
Nancy Pelosi needs to be assassinated. That's what I'm saying.
The thing is, I don't think that on the individual level that there's any censorship, unless
there's not.
Okay.
I mean, you have to
it's organizational.
if you get some random dick who just is constantly being an asshole on Facebook or Twitter, I mean, you have to put in a fair amount of, I mean, first of all, you can block them.
Right.
But in order to get that person off of Facebook and Twitter, right, like you have to, like you block them, you report them and all that stuff. And then, you know, Facebook or Twitter will go in and try to figure out like, well, is this person actually whatever, or is someone just being hypersensitive? And then the decision is ultimately left up to them. Right. So, but again, I mean, the repercussion is, yes, your Facebook or your Twitter account gets suspended, but when you can come back and just create another account, right? There's no, that's not a huge punishment.
The major difference is that you can't create endless numbers of Facebook accounts. You can with Twitter. I know people who have 60 Twitter accounts. With Facebook, I think you need an email associated with every account, and they're held as unique. But regardless,
okay, but what? But
you
okay.
but you can create endless number of emails too.
Right? Like I mean, you can just go to AOL.com.
I've got like 10.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I have 5 different email accounts associated with my phone alone right here. So I'm just all my thing is that what social media has created is an arena where people can be very awful to each other, and there is limited to no repercussion for that action. A lot of the stuff that people say on social media, they would never say to another human being's face, right?
True.
And especially the people that they say it to. Right? Like some of the things that are said to me on social media and different interactions, people would never say that if they were within a miles radius of me in real life. You know,
you're the punch him in the face solution, which you are a huge advocate for.
Huge advocate of it.
is not necessarily the best solution, but we know where you stand on that. But the other funny thing that I thought
why is that not a good solution?
Because might doesn't make right, you big bully. It doesn't.
It doesn't? Oh, but it's okay. But if you want to sit there and call people cunts and twats and everything else, and they don't have a chance, and
I don't run away.
Right? Okay.
I don't run away.
It's not running away, but I mean, you're sitting there calling people names and calling them out online. So all of a sudden, that makes you right.
I didn't say I was right. I've never claimed to be a decent human being.
I didn't claim that punching you in the face was right, but I said it solves the problem.
It makes you feel better. All right.
It solves a problem, and that person will think twice about being an asshole again.
That is true.
You calling me a twat doesn't necessarily prevent me from doing anything or make me think twice about anything.
True.
But it makes you a douchebag.
Fair enough. If we're name calling, that's fine.
Right. I'm just saying.
I got you. All right. Moving on. The other funny thing was one of the senators asked him, like, if I'm not happy with Ford, I can buy a Chevy. What is the Chevy to your Ford? And Mark Zuckerberg was like,
Twitter?
Well, is Twitter your competitor? Like, we overlap, but it was hilarious to me to listen to these out of touch Washingtonians trying to grill down on a tech geek who is way smarter than him. And one of them also said something like, sir, I'm not going to beat around the bush here, but your user agreement sucks. Your user agreement was designed to cover your rear end. Yeah, that's what user agreements do, idiot.
Oh, I literally just worked on one today for our agency.
The whole point of a user agreement is you can't hold me accountable for how you use this thing.
Yes,
done. Way to go, Senator Dumbass. And yes, I called names again. All right, I'll stop for the moment.
I didn't even say anything.
No, you didn't, but I acknowledged it.
I had a good story to talk about user agreements and what I did at work today.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you ruined it. No,
I ruined everything.
You ruined it.
You ruined everything.
You ruined it so you could call someone a dumbass. How you feel about that?
I feel fine.
Good job out of you.
I feel great.
Good job out of you.
All right. So real quick.
I'm going to scroll through Facebook right now.
Scroll away. All right. So another weird event today in the political world. Scooter Libby was pardoned.
All
Why?
Right. Show of hands from our listeners. How many of you know who the hell Scooter Libby is?
I wonder.
I wish this is one of the few times I wish we had a live studio audience. And while we love you, I just feel that if we had a live studio audience, Jim would be dead by now.
Kiss my ass.
Punch me in the face.
Make the world a better place. Punch Jim in the face. I have put that. By the way, I did once put on Facebook. Make the world a better place. Punch Sean Hannity in the face, and I stand by that.
Be careful.
I would love to fight Sean Hannity. I would love it. Oh my god, he was saying that. She was talking shit the other day, like, I'll meet this guy in the ring. I'm like, oh, Sean, I would get in the ring with Sean Hannity any fucking day.
Okay, watching you and Sean Hannity in the ring.
It would be a little gross and pasty and white, but I would knock that motherfucker out. His hair would be gone. Oh, it'd be great.
Is that a two-piece? Or not a two-piece?
Toupee?
Toupee? A hairpiece?
It's perfect. I don't know.
It's been the same. Well, I feel like it's been the same color for a long time. That kind of.
Oh, it's getting colored. It's getting whatever.
Yeah.
Did I tell you what happened to me? Did you see what I put on Facebook? Did you see what happened to me on Facebook in North Carolina about my gray hair?
No.
All right. Well, many people took great pleasure in laughing at this. I went to it's kind of a fast food barbecue joint, so I wanted to have the local style barbecue, which is soaked in vinegar, pulled pork, and fried chicken place.
Oh, I do know. I do know.
Okay,
but tell
and
it.
so at this point, I had not shaved my head down. My goatee and my facial hair were kind of long. There's a lot of white in these things, and this probably 16-year-old girl punches up my order, and I look at the fucking screen, and it says this much, minus 44 cents for a senior discount. I'm 46 fucking years old, kid. Now, I'm sure to her.
You know what? Here's the problem. You don't help your argument when you say, I'm 46-year-old kid. Right? Like,
get off my lawn.
Right. Like, I mean, you're pissed that you got the senior discount, but you call her a kid in the same sentence.
I stand by both those. I mean, come on. I know. I'm getting up there.
I'm not even giving you shit about your age.
Senior discount. Did not say, would you like this? And what's the all right, so my mom, who does listen to the show occasionally, I put that on Facebook, and she replied, oh, you thought it was hilarious when I was 42 when someone offered me the senior discount. So karma has come around to bite me in the ass. Yes, Ma, you win. Okay.
Wow.
All right. So
anyway. Now, to be fair, I'm 10 years younger than you, and I have white and gray in my beard. So
not to the extent I do, though.
Well, I mean, you don't
right now I'm clean shaven.
You don't grow yours out very far.
True,
and that's part. I'm assuming that's part of the reason why.
The reason I shave my head is because there's so much gray in it. What isn't bald is pretty damn white. Yeah, exactly.
I shaved mine because I started losing my hair when I was literally 21 years old. Like, I shaved my head one day, it was before that, because it was in college. And I was at UMass, and I remember I had grown my hair out, had a nice fro.
Did you have a big old fro?
Had a nice fro.
And
this Jamaican girl used to braid my hair, and then I got tired of it because she would braid it so tight that I would have a headache on like day 1 until like day 5, right? Like, I mean, because you leave the cornrows in for a while, or however you have your hair braided, and typically you would get a headache for the first couple of days, and then they would loosen up. The headaches would go away, and it's just like, all right, this is a terrible way to live. But she would braid my hair, and the headaches never went away because she would pull it so tight. Like, she would literally like put her foot in the back of my head to pull and get them tight. And they looked great. Like, they were pristine. It looked like she did it with, like, she drew them on, But, I mean, my God, like, how tight does my hair need to be? So I cut my hair off, and I used a razor. Like, I shaved it down with the clippers. I used a razor.
Right.
And then after that, like, a little spot in the front didn't grow back. And I thought it was weird, and I tried to, like, cut around it and try to do all sorts of stuff. For a couple years, I toyed with it. Actually longer than that. I think until I was in my, like, mid to late 20s, I kept trying to work around the fact that my hairline was steadily receding.
All right.
And I could not fight biology.
See, I got a different kind of problem. I just have my bratty nieces call it the island. So I don't have like typical male pattern baldness, but I've got a bald spot like right.
Well, I have the same thing, except for right here.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, right there. It just flat out doesn't grow anymore. What I blame it on is that I cut myself really deep with the razor. Don't remember bleeding, and that's a scar, but that's not accurate or true.
Okay.
No, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't even begin to make sense because it's not a scar. My hair just doesn't grow right here. But we actually have a similar bald pattern.
We do,
and it's the same one that my grandfather has, and it's the same one that my uncle has. I mean, it's hereditary.
We've gone from Scooter Libby to bald spots.
You know what? Here's the thing. I don't even know. I want to make a quick thing about Scooter Libby.
All right.
If you don't know who Scooter Libby is, for our listeners, He was. Wait, what was his
Dick
position?
Cheney.
He
Dick
was
Cheney's
Dick Cheney's
chief of staff.
Chief of staff, aka Dick Cheney's ball maiden, and he got in trouble for there was a CIA agent who ended up being unmasked. She was undercover. She was undercover. She got unmasked. We figured out that she was a CIA agent overseas, and the question was who leaked this information? Who leaked it to the? Was it the New York Times?
No, it was Robert Novak. It was Robert Novak, who I think might have been with CNN at the time.
Okay, but her name as an undercover CIA agent was leaked to the press, and the question was who leaked her name to the press. Now, Scooter Libby wasn't convicted of leaking her name to the press. He was convicted of obstruction of justice and lying in the course of an investigation. And he being the highest ranking official that had been convicted of a felony, right?
Yeah.
And so...
And sentenced to like 7 years in prison. And then...
Right, I think it was like 30 months.
Okay.
So I think he was sentenced to like 30 months in prison. George W. Bush
commuted his sentence.
Commuted the sentence, which is different than a pardon. He just commuted the sentence, said you don't have to serve the time, but you're still guilty of the crime. That's key, right? Which is why the pardon comes into effect now, because a lot of people wanted Libby completely pardoned and absolved of the crime because they couldn't actually, there were a lot of different reasons why they wanted him absolved of this crime. But again, he was convicted of obstruction of justice and lying, right? Which I think is important, which is part of the reason why I think George W. Bush said, I'm not going to pardon him if he lied and if he made this investigation harder than it should have been, then he's guilty of that. Now, because of his service and because of what he's done for this country, I'll commute his sentence so he doesn't have to go through the undignified existence of being a prisoner, but he's guilty of this crime. And a lot of people have been saying, well, Scooter Libby's such a good guy and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And now Donald Trump comes and pardons him, right? Pardon him meaning not only do you not have to serve your sentence, which has already been commuted, but we're wiping this away. That conviction no longer exists, and you're now absolved of this crime. And my thoughts on this is that Trump did this to send a message.
Okay.
Hey, that this is Trump saying, hey, listen, the heat is on with Mueller and this whole Russia investigation. And I think the reality is that the Mueller investigation has turned into just the investigation of Trump and his campaign and his administration. So I think the pardoning of Scooter Libby is a calling card to people who know things to say, keep your mouth shut.
It's a safety flare.
Right. Keep your mouth shut. Play nice. If it goes down, you're going to go down, but I'll get you out.
That is almost the only thing that makes sense about that happening now. Because Scooter Libby has been the whole thing was about Valerie Plame and Joe Wilson. If you're interested in it, Google Joe Wilson and Valerie Plame. And
Plame,
correct,
not in
Plame. Yes, Plame.
And that's just
no.
Clarity
Good
for the listeners.
Good. Because there's a lot to that story, and it's something I was very passionate about when it was going on. But that is the only thing that makes sense is, hey, I did this for a guy who has nothing to do with this. What do you think I'll do when it affects me?
Like Scooter, the funniest thing is
Scooter Libby probably woke up with it.
They talked to Scooter Libby's lawyer, and she's like, yeah, I just called and told him he was coming out of an MRI. He's ecstatic. Like, I mean, you want to talk about something or someone that like just was completely caught off guard, caught off base, had no idea it was coming. He's like, well, let me go get this MRI on my back and see what my physical therapy schedule is going to be for my herniated disc. And then all of a sudden,
by the way, you're pardoned.
You're pardoned. He's like, he probably jumped up and he's just like, you know what? All of a sudden, I'm fine. So
Steve, I heard the news that Scooter Libby had been pardoned, and I literally thought to myself, what year is this? Because that was going on in 2006, 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was convicted in 2007, and so this is pre-Obama. So it's not.
Oh, yeah. This is W.
Well, it's important to make that distinction because Obama had absolutely nothing to do with this, other than the fact that he wouldn't. He
was a senator at the time that this went on.
No, he had nothing to do with it in the fact that his only involvement is that he wouldn't pardon Scooter Libby, because there have been people on his team who've been advocating for him to be pardoned because he is. That's a pretty. I mean, that's a big strike against you.
Yeah,
right.
What he was accused of is a big fucking deal.
I agree.
What went down was a big fucking deal.
Well, what went down was an absolute fucking big deal, and what he was accused. I mean, lying and obstructing a federal investigation is a huge deal.
And most
he
people
was found
think
guilty.
most people think he jumped in front of Dick Cheney to took a bullet for Dick Cheney, because who ironically would later shoot someone else in the face, but. Dick Cheney was definitely on the ropes for that, and outing a CIA agent, especially considering that George W. Bush was the son of George H.W. Bush, who was the former director of the CIA,
right.
Who I think the law that was being pursued was put in place by George H.W. Bush's administration because of the risk of compromising intelligence officers. All right.
Hey, did you do your homework on the CIA and drugs and Compton and crack?
Let's talk about the NBA. Okay. You know what? I was going to try to do it at the airport last night. I met a cute girl at the airport. Yeah, whatever.
Juggle my nuts.
All right.
I don't even know what that means.
I didn't either. I was going to just let it slide.
Right.
Real quick, NBA playoffs are starting. Do you think LeBron's done with Cleveland?
So, in reality, I was thinking about this when the Cavs were playing the Knicks on Wednesday. And you know what? I think there's a possibility that I could have seen the last regular season game with LeBron James in a Cleveland Cavs jersey during his viable years, right? If he were to leave, I think that chances are he would come back and play one like token season with the Cavs and then retire, whatever. But so what I'm saying is there's a chance he could leave. Reality, I actually don't think he's going to leave. I don't think
that's been your stance for a long time. You and I have talked about this for a long time.
Now, I started to waver for a little bit when I looked
you sound like you're wavering a bit now.
Well, I did, because I'm looking at Philly and I'm saying, man, they're really good. And they are. They're good. Joel Embiid, but can he stay healthy? And everybody else that they have on that team. Yeah, Ben Simmons. And there's
Ben Simmons, who's almost like LeBron.
Well, right. And so, but the more I think about it, maybe a lot of it will depend on how the Cavs fare in the playoffs this year. But I think if the Cavs go to the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Even if let's say they lost in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think LeBron would look at that team. He would look at where, he would say, all right, I got a team that I literally turned the whole team over, right after the All-Star, or
at the trade deadline, yeah.
A week before the All-Star break. And I get this new team before the All-Star break. These young guys, most of them inexperienced, none of them have played in the playoffs, and we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, which means that they probably would have had to go through. We know that
Toronto
they're playing. We know that they're playing Indiana, so they probably would have had to go through Toronto, or maybe
Boston looks like they're toast.
Boston.
They're toast.
Maybe
right? Without Kyrie, I think they're done.
You can make that argument for sure, but either way, you could look at that and say, all right. So with this team that we, considering how bad the Cavs were before, right? And they were decent, but again, they had LeBron, they had Kevin Love, but Isaiah Thomas turned out
did not work out.
It didn't work out. He wasn't healthy. He wasn't contributing when he came back. Derrick Rose was a no-show. Jay Crowder that they got in that trade was, he's one of those guys. He played really well against the Cavs, but on the team, it's almost like the only time Jay Crowder played well was against the Cavs, and then when you put him on the Cavs, he's like, well, I just really don't like playing unless I'm playing against the Cavs. So
It was probably murder in practice.
Right. I mean, it's just like the way he played for the Cavs on the floor. It's just like, who the fuck are you? You're awful.
Yeah, he didn't seem to.
Right. I mean, but I mean, you go like when Jay Crowder played for the Celtics and when he played for Toronto, like he was a nightmare for the Cavs. He got rebounds, he shot threes. It's just like, all right, well, we get him to do that for us, and he'll be a really effective player. I thought it was. I remember how
excited you were to get him.
I was thrilled to get him, and then all of a sudden he's just like, well, I mean, it's just different because I'm playing for you guys now.
What's weird is the mocking voice you do for Jay Crowder and the mocking voice you do for me are identical.
Right, because he's acting like you. That's how you would act.
So I don't. Good luck defending that. But I hope we have not seen the last of LeBron in Cleveland. But I will say this for the record right now: if he moves on, I will still say I admitted I was a fan, then I was a hater when he left. If he chooses to try to chase more titles and thinks this isn't the place, I say thank you for the title you brought here. You changed the culture of Cleveland sports. Good luck. Please don't do it the same way as last time. Don't have a bunch of Boy Scouts getting held hostage while don't do that again. But God. I think he's learned from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he learned from it. And I agree. For me, when LeBron left the first time, it sucked. I was disappointed, but I understood it completely. As a guy who could have stayed, I was a 4-star athlete that left Youngstown State. I could have stayed and played for Jim Tressel, but I opted to leave and go, elsewhere.
Right.
So I got his decision, as weird as it was. Like, I made the connection that LeBron's never left Cleveland. Like, yes, he's played all over the world, and yes, he's got all the money in the world, but he has never lived anywhere else. I mean, he grew up in Akron. He played in Cleveland, and the kid
never won a title, and he was close a bunch of times.
I just think as a young man developing, in his mid-20s, he's just like, I want to experience something different.
Yeah.
And I can do whatever in the offseason, but he was a new father. I mean, there was a lot that went into it, and I understood it. I have a couple friends that can attest to the fact that I was disappointed. I wasn't comfortable with Dan Gilbert's letter that he wrote. I felt that Dan Gilbert, if you remember, wrote this really nasty letter, that really came out and attacked LeBron. And to me, it really, people say, "Oh yeah, that's exactly what we feel, and it represents Cleveland and the heart of Cleveland, and fuck LeBron and go Cavs." And I'm like, you just lost arguably one of the top 5 players of all time. You have nothing. This team won't win 40, won't win, I think I said 40 games at the time, which is a gross understatement because I think they won 28.
I think it was awful.
But I mean, but the letter,
No, Dan Gilbert basically threw a tantrum back.
Dan Gilbert threw a tantrum, and I think that I feel like we got the edited version of that letter when it was finally made public, because there were some racial undertones there that made me very uncomfortable.
Okay.
And I just didn't like, and what kind of helped kind of firm that up were the people who were really excited about that letter and how excited they were and why they were so excited about it, right? I mean, nothing makes a mid 30 to 40-year-old white guy feel better than a really rich white guy telling a really rich black guy to go fuck off, right? I mean, like that.
All right, you can call it white privilege, but that's a vibe I didn't get. Now, it is probably
right, but I mean, think about the time.
Yeah,
think about the time, and you yourself have said that you've gone through
I've definitely
growth
changed.
process.
Yes, absolutely.
And so, I mean, you were,
I was not. When I saw the letter, I just thought, okay, you're supposed to be bigger than this. Meaning Dan Gilbert. I thought the way LeBron handled his departure was terrible.
Oh, it was awful. And I've always said that as well.
The way he handled his return was fucking perfection.
Oh, it's good.
And
brought a tear to my eye.
If he chooses to leave again, all I'll say is thank you.
But part of me says, what? Like, who the fuck wants to go through that? Like, I mean, because in reality, going back to just basketball talk, like if you go to the West, you're going to have to contend with Golden State. You're going to have to contend with Houston. Theoretically, you may have to contend with Oklahoma City. And San Antonio is always going to be an outlier out there, although they seem to be fading.
Yes. And they're going to lose Kawhi Leonard probably.
Most likely, right? I mean, which is why San Antonio is going to be fading. and you have some other young and up and coming teams out in the West. In the East, all you really have right now is San Antonio.
In the East.
I'm sorry, Philadelphia. Holy
okay.
shit.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't even know where that came
Geographically
from.
challenged.
But all you really have in the Eastern Conference is the Philadelphia 76ers, right? And we don't even know how they're going to perform in the East. All we know is that they're really good right now. And maybe you can argue the Boston Celtics, once Hayward comes back, once Kyrie Irving is healthy, you get them a full season together in the playoffs, and then they could be a formidable duo.
Yep.
But I don't know what Gordon Hayward is in the playoffs, right? All I know is that he's a pretty solid player. He's a double-double guy. He would help a guy like Kyrie spread the floor. So I could see where that would absolutely work. But we haven't seen them together at all. I mean, he broke his leg in the first quarter of the first game that they played together, so we have no idea what that's going to be. And so my argument is that it's an easier path for LeBron to get to the finals and then have something happen once he gets there with the Cavs. And if this team can get to the Eastern Conference Finals as currently situated, then I feel that LeBron is good enough and will be good enough for the next 3 to 5 years to be able to get that team to the finals or pretty damn close. And if they can get to the finals in the next couple years, I think that, and like Golden State's not a lock to win this. Steph Curry's not in.
He's broken.
I mean, Steph Curry probably won't be back until the second round. There's a chance that Golden State could theoretically lose in the first round. Golden State just lost by fucking 40.
Yeah.
Okay? Like 40. Like by 40 to Utah, and I'm not exaggerating. They literally lost by 40. So
when you do the math of that, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
NBA team to lose by 40 points
an
in a game.
NBA team to lose by 40. Now, it was one of the last games of the season, either the last game of the season, but Golden State is not the formidable beast that they were. They theoretically could lose. Houston is very good.
Jeez.
Houston is very good, but Houston and the Cavs are like the Cavs are not a great matchup for Houston for two reasons, right? Because one, LeBron James isn't a good matchup for anybody, and two, James Harden is not like his matchup against either one of the guards that they would throw at him is actually not great. So he could actually, theoretically, he could be managed. And people want to talk about Chris Paul, but I need Chris Paul to stay healthy. And we haven't seen Chris Paul perform well in the playoffs to this point. So, I mean, you can make an argument that, like, Houston has some kinks in the armor.
Real quick, playoffs about to start. Your prediction of who's in the finals?
I'm going to say Cavs in Houston. And if it's Cavs in Houston, I think the Cavs come home with another title.
I was going to say Cavs in Houston as well. I'm not going to predict the championship round. I'm going to save that for another show. But
I will.
All right.
If it's Cavs in Houston, I think
they match up.
I think that they match up, and I'm going to go a little subjective and just say I know LeBron can win a championship.
You don't know that James Harden
can. I don't know that James Harden can. I don't know that CP3 can either. Or Chris Paul can. So,
all right. So we got to wrap this up. We got to do our come at me, bro. I've got a question for you, sir.
Okay, come at me, bro.
So you, Steve, are generally a reserved guy when you make predictions. You're very analytical. You don't like to make bold predictions and be proven wrong. The only time I've ever seen you fly off the handle and make a prediction or make a bet on a prediction was when you predicted Trump would win the election, and you ended up being right.
I didn't fly off the handle with that.
You were pissed.
I didn't fly off the handle. I had data.
All right. You
was pointing to exact the reasons why.
Right. Anyway, my question for you is there a compromising tape in the possession of Russians? Does it exist?
That's a great question. Is there a tape of two?
And don't say no, it's not a tape. It's a digital video. Is there video evidence?
Is there evidence of
Trump?
Some sort of golden shower event?
Yes.
Whether it was on a bed or on Trump or
that is the question.
A German Shepherd.
I will not let you dodge on technicalities.
That's a great question. Your come at me, bro, is so much better than mine. Mine is depressing. I'm going to say yes.
Awesome.
I'm going to say
you're
it's
doing
out
it.
there.
Okay.
Now, can I explain why?
Please, absolutely.
We know for a fact that Trump hates Obama, right?
Yes.
Trump was birtherism. His birth certificate, he wasn't born here. Doesn't take
Obama mocked him publicly with the whole, when I was doing this, he was firing Dennis Rodman or whatever he said.
Right, like, he can't stand it. Trump has an ego. Like, Trump wants to be praised, and if you make fun of him and you're right, like, he loses his shit. So I believe that Trump really has this vendetta against Obama. It's not just Republican versus Democrat. It is, I am Donald Trump. I'm rich
This
and I'm
fucking
white,
guy did this?
And this fucking social nigger activist president motherfucker. Like that, like Trump lost his shit, right? And after that, like he lost his shit and he had $1 billion and he said, you know what? I'm going to fuck that guy in the ass. And so it was Donald Trump's mission to degrade Barack Obama as much as he could, right? Whether it was birtherism, whether it was once he became president, anything that he did, the Iran deal, anything with the EPA, any regulation, anything that Obama did, it became Donald Trump's mission to undo it because it was Obama. Whether it was good, bad, or other. If Obama did it, we're going to undo it. And they're like, all right, well, this was really good and we have to stay in it. TPP. Right? He really wants to get out of TPP. Well, TPP wasn't about trade. TPP was about controlling fucking China, right? And what is Donald Trump really big on? Controlling China. So now the problem is we pulled out of TPP. All right, well, it was about controlling China, which is the main thing that you want to do. Fuck. All right, so how do we get back into TPP but not give Obama credit?
Right.
And so I think with a guy with that sort of blind hate and rage and disdain, he looks at Obama and says, you know what? I'm in Russia. I know Obama's been here. Hey, Vlad, can I get the room that the president? Oh, yeah, for you, Donald, yes. So he gets the room, and he goes to Michael Cohen, and he says, hey, go out, get me 2 hookers. I don't care. Pay him $50 or pay him $50,000. I don't give a fuck. Just get 2 fucking hookers in here in the next hour and give them a lot of water and champagne between now and then. And so Cohen goes out, gets the 2 hookers. They bring him back up to the room. And Donald Trump says, all right, now tell them to go stand on the bed. And when they got to pee, squat and piss right there where that motherfucker slept. You tell him to do it. And Cohen is like, all right. And he does it. And they're Russian. And they're like, all right, well, fuck, whatever. So they're just like, but champagne and water ain't going to do it. We're going to need as much Stoli Elite as you got. And keep it coming. And they pounded Stoli Elite. They got on the bed. They danced together. They were listening to some pretty high-impact techno music. And then the urge came. One got down to go to the bathroom. The other one was like, no, we got a job to do. Right? There's over 500,000 rubles involved in this. And so they say, oh, yeah, that's right. And then they get on the bed, and then they fucking throw the thongs down, and they do their nasty deed.
I could not. I was really excited to ask you that question. I had no idea I was going to start the chain reaction that I did.
And then once they do their nasty deed, they pull their thongs back up, soaked in fucking piss, and they go and they get their money. They throw their skin tight, slinky dresses back on. They kind of make out with each other as they walk down the hall of the fucking Russian hotel thing that they were staying at.
Ritz-Carlton, I think.
And they disappear into the darkness, never to be seen again. No one had a cell phone. There's no proof. There's no nothing except it's the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow or St. Petersburg.
Moscow, I think.
In Moscow.
And so the portrait of Vladimir Putin had eyes
2
that
eyes that and someone in the Kremlin has those and we'll see. Awesome. Now, will anyone ever get to see those other than Vlad and Baryshnikov? I don't know. But
okay. But thank you for the short and long versions of that answer. What do you got for me?
God, why do you put me in those situations? Why do you do that to me?
I didn't. I just handed you the ball. You ran with it.
Don't put me in situations where my weird comes out. Because obviously I've thought about this. And
I was curious to hear your answer. I didn't know if you would take the leap and go yes. So good. What do you got for me?
all right, so mine is different, and I wish I wouldn't have done this now. So mine is, and it's a statement. You tell me if it's true or false. True or false. Come at me. The Comedy Store in L.A. will no longer be an iconic stop for comedians, with the death of Mitzi Shore.
You know what?
And Mitzi Shore is the mother of Pauly Shore, but she is a woman who has been literally the backstop, the catcher, the stable rock of new comedians for the last 30 years, maybe longer?
I don't know if it,
it's
really been big in the last 15, 20.
And then, but I mean, I think the comedy,
it's been there for, it's been there
forever,
time.
and she's been running it for a long time. But either way, she's
an icon.
She's an icon.
She passed away at 87 a couple days ago. Actually, only found out because you texted me. And I've heard a few of the comics that are big at the Comedy Store now talk about it, Joe Rogan being the one that I'll reference. Honestly, I think she has dug a foundation for that place where it will last for a long time. I'm not saying forever, but so many comics use that as a meeting place, a trial place. I mean, fucking Chappelle did his last special at the Belly Room in the Comedy Store. So no, I think the Comedy Store.
What would be really cool is if Chappelle took that over.
That would be awesome.
If Chappelle,
though, I don't know if he wants to be an LA guy.
He doesn't. I know he doesn't. There's a reason why he lives in fucking bumfuck outside
Yellow
of Dayton,
Springs, Ohio. Yeah.
Did you see the video of him at the town hall meeting? By the way,
I did not.
Oh my god, he was being dead serious, but he was also being Dave Chappelle, and it was.
I have to see this
comedy. It wasn't even comedy gold. It was great. Like he walks up and he's just like, "I'm Dave Chappelle. I live in this motherfucker." And I got some concerns, and it was like
I've been to Yellow Springs. I've been there when I lived in the Cincinnati area. There was this girl that I hung out with a bit, and she wanted to go there. It is like this hippie, goofy farm town. I mean, it's like farm country in the middle of nowhere, but super liberal.
Yeah.
Antioch College is there, and Antioch didn't give grades because grades stifle creativity.
Right.
So anyway, that would be awesome.
Stigma.
Yes. So to your question is, I think the Comedy Store lasts for a good while. I think there are so many LA comics who are so well established and love that place will not let it falter.
Well, listen, it's not I hate to say this, but we talk about comics on the show, and it's almost like a little bit of a bit where I hate comics,
right?
And you call me out on it, but I love comedy.
I know.
Especially good comedians. Bad comedians I don't like. They're bad, so it's fair. But I could appreciate what Mitzi Shore brought to the world of comedy. Mm-hmm. My heart and condolences go out to Pauly Shore. I could not imagine what he's going through. She died from complications from Parkinson's.
Right.
He had been taking care of her for the last however long.
It's been a while, yeah.
She meant a lot to a lot of people. You mentioned Joe Rogan.
His stories about her.
He's got great stories about her, but there was a long time where he
was banned. Yeah,
was banned from there, and then he was able to finally go home. So go back there
because of her. Actually,
because of her. So it's great that happened before she was incapacitated and before she died. And so I guess my heart and yours and the Whiskey Congress sort of group heart goes out to Pauly Shore and his family, and I don't think he's got a lot of family. I don't know. I heard an interview with him it's maybe I say a few months ago, but actually it was probably a year to 18 months ago, where he was talking about taking care of her and the difficulties of it. Because he was still trying to travel and do some things, and he's doing a lot of advocacy things for different things. And he was talking about the kind of like the small actual family that they have, but they have an enormous family when you rope in the world of comedy. So, for everybody who is hurting right now because of her passing, our heart goes out to you. And, I'm pretty sure that she would want us all to kind of continue to keep laughing. Remember the best things about her if you know them. And if you don't know, then go look her up and look up the Comedy Store and look at the people who came out of there. And the people that are there now.
Those people who go there weekly.
And, just look at what that place provides. It provides laughter in times of in all times, good, bad, or other. And that helps, that kind of helps us deal with a lot of the tougher things that we have to deal with. So.
And a couple of our Cleveland folks have moved out to LA. I mean, Yusuf Ali is out in LA. He's got a poster up in our studio. Ramon Rivas has been in town. I actually saw him last night down at the Comedy Cabin in Lakewood. So, I know they both go, I think, to the Ice House and the Improv more than the Comedy Store, but I think they've both been to the Comedy Store and performed there. So it's helping local folks. All right, man, let's wrap this up. We've been, Stephen, good talking to you.
And I have to pee like a race.
Okay, go do that. And we're Whiskey Congress at Whiskey Congress on all social media. We'll put up the videos we talked about when we post the episode. Thanks a lot, and good night. Good night.